has a number one killer, and it's not the Wuhan virus. Church militants Paul Marano elaborates on that for us.
Abortion has become the number one killer of human beings on the planet.
Abortion officially stands as the leading cause of death worldwide.
This, according to Worldometer, a website monitoring international births, deaths, and other vital information. Its abortion stats come directly from the World Health Organization.
Good evening to you all.
In the year 2020, surgical abortion killed more than 40 million preborn children. That accounts for 43% of all deaths worldwide, notes American Center for Law and Justice.
Out and look at the procedure itself. We're talking about the destruction of an unborn child.
Comparatively, 1.9 million people are dying annually from the China virus. That's less than 1/20th the rate of prenatal homicide. In just the United States, more human beings die each year from abortion than from heart disease, stroke, and accidents combined.
It's a travesty, and it's really devastating our community.
And these deaths are only from surgical abortions. Chemical abortions kill 10 times that number of preborns. This includes not only the abortion pill RU486, but also injections, the IUD, and so-called birth control pills.
Here's the truth. If you're using hormonal contraception, you are very likely using an abortifacient. This means that you could actually be causing an abortion without knowing it.
Human Life International reports around 4 times as many preborn children are killed by the common birth control pill than by surgical abortion.
You know, what is a chemical abortion?
And that third function of the birth control pill prohibits that conceived child from actually implanting in the wall of the uterus. And it expels the child, and that's what we call a chemical abortion.
The secondary mechanism in the pill makes the mother's uterine lining impossible for the tiny child to attach to when conception does occur, flushing the tiny child out without even the mother's knowledge.
That if you're in the position where you are using contraceptive drugs or have been in the past, this may be a difficult truth to process.
Dr. Bogomir Kuhar of Pharmacists for Life estimates between 8 and 13 million preborn children are killed annually in the United States alone. Only some 10% of these are from surgical abortions.
Contraceptive use actually drives higher rates of abortion.
Between surgical and chemical means of killing the unborn, abortion has become by far the world's number one killer. Paul Marano, Church Militants, The Download.
We look at obviously this in the United States. It's been going on for 48 years here in the United States, and it's also occurred elsewhere in the world. So, for example, it is occurring in formerly Catholic countries, and I say formally despite the fact that on paper, of course, these have large Catholic populations. But for example, Argentina, which has suffered horribly under socialism and difficulties within the 20th century. Argentina, we see people there celebrating in Argentina, very, very happy that there is an abortion law passed, a pro-abortion law allowing abortion in Argentina. South America, obviously very, very Catholic in South America because of the Spanish influence there. And they're celebrating abortion. This is a Catholic country. Another Catholic country, once Catholic Ireland. Again, Ireland did this not through the way that the United States did, which was some judicial fiat, but actually a referendum on abortion. And we see there again, Ireland, people screaming, very, very pleased, very, very happy. But where were the bishops in these countries doing this, coming out to stand against this? Where were the bishops doing this? Sure, maybe they came out and issued some sort of statement, we condemn this, we don't like this, but where have they been for the generations as it's moving through? And that's the point. It's no good just coming up and saying, hey, I'm turning up for the fight now when the barbarians are at the gates. Dude, they have been building their weapons, they've been building their armies, you needed to be keeping them down and dealing with this for years. And of course, the bulwark of Catholicism in Europe is Poland. Poland, the Winged Hussars, saved Europe once. Is Poland going to save Europe again? Possibly, but there are massive, massive movements in Poland to push abortion. And the question is, right now the Polish bishops seem to be holding the line. The Polish Catholics seem to be holding the line. I have great respect for the Polish people. They suffered horribly during the 20th century. But let's not forget that Poland, during the early part of the 20th century, was the abortion capital of Europe. That's where people went to have abortions. It has been said by many very holy saints and people like that the reason Poland suffered under the communists and under the Nazis, you got smashed from both sides, was because of their support for abortion. And since then they have held the line. Can they continue to do it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that the cases of Ireland and Argentina really underscore the tragedy that was January 22nd, 1973. Not only was that America's most devastating day, it was really a catastrophe for the world. It marked a major triumph for the culture of death, and since then, we've been not only killing our own children as a nation, but we've been promoting the killing of children worldwide through our America's massive cultural and economic influence. There's been some restrictions on direct funding of surgical abortions, but as you mentioned, Michael, as Paul mentioned in his report there, the number of chemical abortions is mind-boggling. We've been promoting through the U.S. government. We've been promoting funneling contraception, abortifacient contraception, into the developing world since the early 1960s. My uncle served as a missionary to Brazil beginning in 1962. He said as soon as he arrived, all over the place, on the radio, in newspapers, there were ads for contraception, for the pill, really pro-pill propaganda, basically. And again, it was all financed by the U.S. government and really financed by the U.S. taxpayer. So, I mean, just think about how guilty we are as a nation. How many deaths have we promoted? Have we been responsible for just through the promotion of abortifacients? It's very troubling to think about that. One person who did speak to just the immensity of the abortion holocaust was Dr. Bernard Nathanson. Now, he was a one-time atheist. He actually helped co-found NARAL, Pro-Choice America. He converted to Catholicism later in his life, and before he died a decade ago, he said this, quote, "The abortion holocaust is beyond the ordinary discourse of morality and rational condemnation. It is not enough to pronounce it absolutely evil. The abortion tragedy is a new event, severed from connections with traditional presuppositions of history, psychology, politics, and morality." He went on to say, "It extends beyond the deliberations of reason, beyond the discernment of moral judgment, beyond meaning itself. It is a mysterium tremendum, an utter mystery to the rational mind, a mystery that carries with it not only the aspect of vastness, but the resonance of terror, something so unutterably diabolic as to be literally unknowable to us." I love that quote because it really encapsulates the horror.
Completely insane.
It is. It's insane. And again, Paul mentioned he brought up the statistic in his report. 43%, roughly 43% of all deaths in 2020 were due to abortion. That's just, it absolutely boggles the mind.
Yeah, and we're sure it's probably higher than that.
Yes, right.
There's no way to know those
Absolutely.
two big numbers that are probably bigger than the surgical abortion.
I think something that sort of needs to be said about this is that you're looking at 43% of all deaths. Well, one of the arguments made by the pro-abortion crowd is like, well, these children, if abortion was not available, these children would never have been conceived. People would be possibly more careful, and that's kind of like, well, that's actually our point. Yes, people would do it. But what you actually have is you have this larger issue of you have a complete depraved sexual immorality that is leading to the conception of children that will simply just be sacrificed. It is breeding children in a depraved, perverted sexuality simply to sacrifice. That's even worse than the notion of we're just killing a lot of kids. The Aztec murder of children, I don't think they went around and deliberately bred them to be thrown to Quetzalcoatl. I don't believe that they did that, but this is kind of what we're doing.
Even if they did, it was not these kinds of numbers.
It was not these sort of numbers. Let's actually take a look at something somewhat positive. Archbishop Cordileone, he wrote a letter. San Francisco. He wrote a letter to Nancy Pelosi, of course, is also out there in California, and it's a response to Speaker Pelosi's comments about pro-life voters. You can find this various places, on the internet, and I do encourage you to read it because the point is he actually does come out and say some really quite good stuff. He's careful to sort of thread the needle on his obligations to the tax code, let's say. But he does come out very strongly and condemn the things that Nancy Pelosi said, and specifically her defining herself as a Catholic. So this is, again, it's a bishop who seems to be growing a bit of a spine.
I mean, good for him, but she's in his diocese, archdiocese. Excommunicate her. She's already excommunicated herself, just so everybody's clear on that, but that's not the issue. She needs to be publicly denied Holy Communion and declared, you've excommunicated yourself. Where's that statement?
Where's that same or similar sense? But I think that all these bishops are coming. Bishops are drawn out of the laity ultimately. They're drawn out of the priesthood, and the priesthood is drawn out of the laity. The laity are the ones who go to the March for Life. We stopped going to the March for Life after the last time that we went, when there were sort of two things that were really made clear to us. One was that we asked a bunch of questions of people participating, young people in the main, participating in the March for Life, about whether or not they believed certain teachings of the church. And the vast majority of people did not believe all of the church teachings. To put it another way, very few people at the March for Life, people who had made the effort to travel down to DC, to go to DC in the winter. It's very cold, as you can see that.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. It's not nice. You've got to go to DC. It's all the effort. It's very expensive, to spend time in DC. It's an expensive town. These people are so committed to the pro-life cause, or the in inverted commas pro-life cause, that they do this, but they do not believe all of the church's teachings. These people are Catholics who do not believe all the church's teachings.
Yeah, the vast number of people marching in that are Catholic.
And particularly, they support contraception, which is abortion, as we've just discussed. They support contraception, which leads to it. And the other thing as well, this was the thing that really did it for us, all they kept saying was, I'll see you again next year, to their friends. It's like, guys, the point of this is to stop this. There should not be a next year.
Right. I think people just don't connect. Most Catholics don't connect the evil, the intrinsic evil of contraception and abortion, how really it is, as you said earlier, the key, the gateway to abortion, which it doesn't stop there. Now we've got assisted suicide, euthanasia, all kinds of evil. Powering of the culture of death, really, it starts with contraception and it just ends in I don't know, catastrophe.
There's nothing more to say except you just got to continue to fight this. That's it. That's what we're going to do here at Church Militant. That's it for the download this week. We're happy you could join us. We'll see you again on Monday. Have a blessed weekend, and God love you.